So that is why we have so many people here this evening to speak to a lot of the work that has taken place over the last 6 months since the beginning of our current school year in July. Yes, in July, I know a lot of people often ask, what do school administrators do all summer? A lot. A lot of work takes place in July and August to prepare for the opening of schools in September. I do believe that many of our administrators are going to come up in groups to speak to several of the slides at a time. But I just want to frame tonight's presentation in that we really have worked hard as an administrative team to work collaboratively with our Board of Education members to really align each year's district goals to the overall 5-year strategic plan. And we are in our last year of our 5-year strategic plan. And we took a lot of time this past spring and summer to analyze where we were at in meeting all of the goals and objectives that were set forth and we were charged with back 5 years ago when that original plan, when that 5-year plan was developed. And where were we? What was still left to be accomplished? And we really thought hard about what goals we were going to set for ourselves this year to make sure that at the end of this 5-year process, all of the objectives and goals that were set forth to us and created by the community in collaboration with the board and the administrative team and the teachers and all staff members were really brought to fruition. So tonight's presentation is really focused on just the student success goals as they relate to the district strategic plan. Next month, I know Mrs. Gallagher is going to give an update with Dr. George and other members of our team with regard to our current goals relating to community relations, finance, facility, and long-range planning. But tonight's presentation is solely focused on student success goals. And that doesn't just resonate or rest in curriculum. That really spans all of our departments. We work as a unified team between the curriculum department, the special ed department, student services, operations, and the buildings. And the 2 objectives lifted from our current strategic plan that our student success goals relate to are listed behind me. A lot has been said the last couple of years about Middletown Township's vision for personalized learning and our real emphasis on making sure that each child's needs are met and addressed right down to every single student sitting in our classrooms, regardless of whether they need remediation or enrichment. And we worked hard, actually 2 summers ago as an administrative team, to really kind of pinpoint what that meant and to really articulate what that means on a daily basis in our classrooms in all of our buildings. And the vision that we set forth behind me is one that we all embrace every day. And right now I'd like to ask Mr. Paulson, principal of Harmony Elementary School, and Ms. Morales. We're going to do a little bit of a tabletop activity with our Board of Education members and any members of the audience, maybe some of our incoming board members.
If they have a puzzle.
We have plenty of puzzle pieces. So I'm going to give it over the mic to Mr. Paulson at this time.
All right, so in the spirit of collaboration, which is a theme that you'll hear a lot of tonight, if you have a puzzle piece, you can stand up and you can come over here and try to figure out the puzzle with your teammates, which there should be 17 of you, which signify the 17 schools in our district. I will give you a hint.
You're like one of us. You're here every month.
You may recognize this symbol. Okay? So there's 17 of you. Everyone is over your nose. Figure out your bottom or top. You can knock people over heads. So I'll commentate as they're solving this. They're starting what looks like the outside of the puzzle.
I should start in the middle.
It's good. Community involvement.
That's free.
Good job.
Tom, it's free.
Good work.
A lot of puzzles.
Oh, I see. Good work.
That tree goes right in there.
Love it, love it.
Tom.
That's all you need.
That's it. answers. Let's do this to solve the puzzle.
Mr. Paulson, you may want to mention that it's a student-created logo.
Yes. There might be some puzzles on the outskirts here. This is the puzzle.
Are we missing anything?
Does anybody have a puzzle piece anywhere? Ooh, two right there.
Maybe it does.
Oh, my pieces in. Come on. Excuse me, you got a problem with a couple of these? Okay.
I think I have these out there. All right, let's give him a round of applause. This time. 2.5 minutes, that's pretty good. It took one of my first grade teachers about 2.5 minutes. What you'll notice is the logo, obviously. This was a student-created logo. We had a logo contest last year just to help with our identity. And we actually have a bunch of different logos that we're using throughout the presentation that were all student-created tonight. So we hope that you definitely pay attention to them. If you noticed on the back of your puzzle pieces, and there were 17 puzzle pieces for a reason, there were words. And a lot of those words are words that you're going to hear a lot of tonight. So what I'll do is I will tape this up so it stays together, and we'll put it up into the board office so that it can be displayed there just for you guys to have if you're ever up there visiting. So tonight, we're going to talk a lot. You'll hear personalized learning a lot. It's a theme that has been driving a lot of what we've been doing, but it's not necessarily tech-infused things that you're going to hear a lot about tonight. So where we were a couple years ago is talking a lot about differentiating instruction. Probably a buzzword, you're like, oh, hear that again. But what this is, personalized learning, is it takes that to the next level. But it is part of personalized learning, differentiated instruction. So this slide right here, what you'll notice is what could be considered a Venn diagram if it's in a square, and it just kind of shows you some characteristics of what you'll see in personalized learning as opposed to differentiated instruction. And then in the middle part of the slide is what is the combining thing that brings them both together, the similarities in both of those.
And we think the biggest difference, and you can read this, by the way, this is going to be posted on our district website. There's a lot of links tonight. So we're not going to get through all of them, so please check it out because the links bring you to student work and work that some of our teachers have done, so we want to make sure that you get to see everything. But the biggest takeaway from this is just personalized learning is about what the learner is doing more in the classroom, and differentiation is what the teacher is doing. So really that's the biggest difference between the two, and then what they have in common are obviously we're catering to different learning needs, and in many cases we are utilizing technology for both of those things.
So these two columns basically, and you see student-centered, you'll see student-motivated, student design, teacher-facilitated. I always used to joke when I taught third grade, I always wanted to be the guide on the side, not the sage on the stage. And that holds true to personalized learning. Differentiated instruction, very critical component to teaching, but it's very focused. And it's really, we have to teach a skill, but we have to figure out the right way to do it for each child. Where personalized learning, which you're going to hear a little bit about tonight, is students taking ownership of their learning, setting goals, making sure that they're achieving those goals and working diligently. So a lot of the work that you'll hear from some of the principals tonight will talk about those goal settings that have been happening throughout the district, more so this year than ever. You will hear towards the end of the presentation tonight a little bit about Future Ready. Our strategic plan was started before Future Ready even existed. But we found that it's a very nice tool to use to facilitate our district plan moving forward. So it's not about achieving a specific certificate in Future Ready, but really following the guide and the structure that Future Ready has set forth. And Future Ready doesn't mean that you have to have a Chromebook. The 17 words that are on the back of the puzzle pieces, they're not all tech tools. So that's the really neat thing about personalized learning. It's about what works best for each student in our district. Having been through school here, K-8, I can tell you that we've always been on the cutting edge. This is definitely, this last year in our strategic plan and moving forward, we are certainly well ahead of the curve, and I'm excited about where we're headed with our administrative team tonight. So I think the next thing, we go to student success goals, which I think Mrs. Walker's going to be talking about today.
So the first of those student success goals really centered around the continued implementation and revision of procedures, district and school procedures in relation to promoting positive student outcomes. So school climate and culture.
Yeah, and that's really important to set the stage for learning. Students have to be, we have an environment that, promotes learning, and they have to be ready and present for learning. So one of our goals for this year was to focus on attendance, and it's something we've been focusing on actually for the last few years. This summer, though, we did a deeper dive. We looked at a lot of the research. We revised our procedures in attendance to more closely align with the state. And so then in August, we presented that to the public. It was myself, Mr. Ranella, and our head nurses. We presented a lot of the research that shows how closely aligned student attendance is with student achievement, and we talked about the changes to the policy. And you'll see it's linked there. Oops, where'd it go?
I clicked on it.
To it, yeah. So this, like Ms. Morales said, this presentation is going to be on the website, so you can, if you missed that presentation on attendance and you want to go back and see it, you can just click the link through this presentation. Got that word. Okay. Beyond the changes and the revisions and the tiered interventions that all our principals and building administrators are carrying out, some of our principals have actually set their administrator goals on attendance, and they are doing things beyond the district-wide initiatives. So Mr. Ferry, the principal of New Monmouth, and Mr. Leone, the principal of Nutswamp, are going to talk about some of the things that they've been doing this year to promote positive student attendance.
Okay, so part of attendance isn't just being there every day, it's also being there on time every day. And Mr. Leone and I had similar issues with our buildings last year with regards to tardiness. It was something that we wanted to target and try to show improvement upon. So if you look at the slide, we both purchased a sign that we put out in front of the school, and the sign might not seem like a big deal, but the sign definitely works. So we put the sign out, thank the parents for getting their children in on time. And when they aren't in on time, we flip the sign over at 8:55 when the bell rings, and we say, oops, you're late, your child must be signed in by a parent. And that has been a bit of a deterrent. Parents don't want to get out of the car in the morning, so they are getting the children into school on time. So I had the PTA purchase the sign for me. I then did a presentation with the PTA about getting children to school on time, because if they're missing instruction time in the beginning part of the day, it sets them back for the rest of the day. Not to mention, in their schedule, they're missing the same thing over and over and over again, so they're missing the same class. So it's language arts or it's math or whatever it is, they're constantly behind. Once we brought this to their attention, parents really kind of grabbed onto this, and all of our staff comes in at 8:55. And as you can see, once we set the new expectation that they had to be signed in at New Monmouth, if you look at our tardiness last year from September, December, and then this year from September, December, we went down 18.2%. The amount of targets that we've had so far. So it's definitely working, and it's something that our community is embracing.
So over at Nutswamp, we've had similar results. We've been full blasting and reminding everybody that the doors do close at 8:55, and we do turn the sign around. Security out there literally flips it around at 8:55 when he hears the bell. And last year we had almost 1,500 lates. We had, to be exact, 1,499 lates to school, and so far we're down 13.4%. The letter, which we mentioned here in the slide, sending a letter and then calling the parents for a face-to-face has been very effective in speeding up the process in the building. And for everybody, that what's most important out of this is if we're reducing by 18% in New Monmouth and almost 13.5% in Nutswamp, those children are present for the delivery of instruction that they weren't last year, and that's the biggest part of the whole thing. Ms. Lindsay Fox.
So at the high school level, we're looking at the tiered intervention system here. We're looking at reducing the chronic absenteeism, the absenteeism rates, bringing that down, and also reducing the tardies between the two high schools. Using this system that was developed over this past year. So the students are met with, depending upon if it's a semester course, if it is a full year course, and this letter identifies to the parents that are sent home when this assistant principals are meeting with the students. So at particular benchmarks, the assistant principals are calling parents, meeting with the students, and then the next level would be we have focus groups at that tiered intervention system where the students are recommended and referred over to the guidance department. From there, we are looking at the students' grades, their attendance, and then providing any support systems necessary in order to help the students, get to school on time and making sure that they are on time. From there, in the communication with the parents, we're able to identify and provide the parents support systems as well to help their children get to school. Sometimes, they aren't even aware of our attendance policy. We do put it out there for everybody to see. And when we do send our letters home, it is on the back of every single letter. So there's constant communication that we have between the attendance office, the guidance department, and if necessary, CSTA.
As a segue to this, Middletown High School North was invited to participate in a pilot program, and it's called PASS, and you can see what the acronym stands for. What's interesting about this program, and I met with the two facilitators, is that they didn't just begin their meeting with the students by saying, why aren't you coming to school? They asked them, what are your dreams, goals, and aspirations for the future? And with that, the student would comment, well, I think I'd like to be a nurse, or I'd like to be a carpenter or a police officer. And then they would talk to them, the two facilitators, so what do you think you need to do in order to reach that intended goal as a career path? Well, I have to get a good education, I got to get accepted into college. Great, so this is what we need you to do. You need to come to school. That was the first session, and they're doing vision boards with the students. Yesterday, they also met for a second time, and they focused it on their needs, their concerns. Has anybody experienced any anxieties? Is there any family problems that you'd like to talk about? So they did something with worry dolls, where they had to write something down that bothers them, and then through discussions, they were able to get them to communicate and to express their feelings. Because the idea is they're trying to build a good self-esteem, self-confidence, and meeting the daily struggles of being an adolescent and trying to be successful in school with a lot of the distractions and things that they have to face. They've already had 2 sessions. I've also spoken to some of the students outside of the program, and they just feel this sense of connection. They feel that someone's listening to them, that they feel that they can express their feelings in a forum situation. Also, they're being given a lot of incentives. So the true test will be, upon completion of this 8-week program, to compare their attendance, what it was prior to this program, and as a result of the 8-week sessions where they're learning different strategies to see if their attendance is improving. So far it's been very successful, and we have about approximately 15 sophomores participating in this program.
I think Mr. Ranella is going to speak to
Kind of just dovetailing off of what Dr. Cartier said, we're also offering the PASS program to one of our middle schools as well, following the same structure as what Dr. Cartier explained, and I think there's about 12 students participating in that program as well. So 2 programs that we have in the elementary schools. First is a responsive classroom. We offer professional development for all elementary schools over the summer. They came through. The responsive classroom is an approach to teaching. It starts out with a morning meeting. It's really to start to encourage community and recognize diversity and empathy. And all the research, as you can see, and this is linked to the presentation as well, the research shows that through these morning meetings in a responsive classroom, the results of mathematics and reading are much higher, and the level of instruction is higher as well. So that's an approach to teaching that they're using in the elementary school. And then we also have Choose to Be Nice, which we're piloting in 3 of our elementary schools. This is more of a curriculum based on social emotional learning. It's focused on 9 different core values: respect, teamwork, friendship, kindness, honesty, patience, acceptance, responsibility, and courage. And this is a nice program. It's kind of
comes right out of the box, ready to be turnkeyed in the classrooms. Our SDSSs are pushing into the classrooms, working with phys ed teachers and the health curriculum to implement the Choose to Be Nice program. We're keeping data on it. If we see success with it, we're looking to expand it moving into next year.
In addition, we have one pilot program this year that was discussed back at our October board meeting that Mrs. O'Hagan and Mrs. Merrow are going to give us an update on, and that is the launch of our pilot integrated kindergarten program.
Good evening, everyone. As you know, we received information about a need in the district, put together a committee to investigate it, and our initial plan was to create a class for this current school year. And as we've worked through this process, we've modified those plans. And we've modified those plans as a result of posting for someone to be the teacher of that class and interviewing possible candidates for the integrated kindergarten teaching position. We collected additional data about where these students were in terms of fitting into their classroom and what their current needs were. And we really found that through collaboration that there's a lot of research out there, and the committee has decided to now move in a slightly different direction, and Mrs. Merrow will share with you exactly what our next steps are.
So the committee is going to attend a workshop in January on social emotional learning practices, and then we have also reached out to another school, Spotswood, New Jersey. They were recently featured in a New Jersey Department of Ed Spotlight memo because of their social emotional learning commitment and practices. And so we have already initiated collaboration with them. We will be visiting Spotswood in January to continue with that collaboration and to get a feel for and explore what we can bring back to our district. We will be recommending multiple social emotional learning curricular resources to pilot the program as we move forward, and then we plan to update the board later on in January.
Thank you.
Mrs. Orozco is going to give us an update on our Lifelines prevention.
And Ms. Karansky.
And Ms. Karansky.
Sorry. On the other side of the room. So Ms. Karansky and I have worked closely on this Lifelines Initiative in all 17 of our buildings. We mentioned it a couple months ago, I believe, at the October board meeting, so you may have heard us talk about this already. Lifelines is a suicide prevention curriculum that's written for, there's a 5th and 6th grade curriculum that we're implementing this year in both 5th and 6th grade health classes. There's a 7th through 10th grade curriculum that we're implementing for right now in 9th grade. We started it last year, and this is the 2nd year of implementation, and we've received a lot of positive feedback. And we're also implementing a new curriculum that was also written for 11th and 12th graders, which is more of a transition curriculum for students who are going to be leaving high school and heading off to their next steps in life. The whole intent behind the Lifelines program is to make sure that students are their own advocates and that they understand when they may need to seek help and when their friends may need to seek help. So that's the whole premise behind it, and recognizing those signs.
This is work that the district has been working on for over 2 years. We've had different professionals trained. There's 3 parts to the Lifelines curriculum, and a lot of that is explained in the link here. There's the prevention, intervention, and the postvention, and what it really focuses on is how to work with students and staff when there's been a profound death. So all of the work through Lifelines has been really helpful to our district. And then to kind of segue into that, we've also created a mental health board this year to also improve staff and students' mental health well-being. So far, we've created different committees with over 40 volunteer mental health professionals. They've separated into areas where they feel like they have expertise or are especially interested in. So right now, we're still in the planning phases, but what they are doing is surveying staff back in their own buildings to kind of see what professional development we can further explore in the areas of social emotional learning, becoming trauma-informed schools, and in psychological first aid.
Okay. Kind of piggyback on that, focusing on supporting a positive school climate, promoting students' social emotional well-being. We've expanded Y counseling in 8 of our schools, and we also increased CPC counseling to our middle schools. They focus on peer relationships, dealing with stress, dealing with their social emotional issues, and sometimes come with our students in the middle school and high school setting. So we've seen a positive impact with that.
Also, our SAC took some training on the PERMA model, and she is meeting in focus groups with our ninth graders. They were selected based on factors including attendance, discipline, and grades. And as you can see, her topics that she's going to focus on, and that PERMA model, the acronym stands for, first of all, positive emotions, engagement, motivation, and meaningfulness, and also achievement and relationships, and the V is for vitality. So by working with these students in small group settings during transition period 3, she's going to be able to help these students face the challenges by being a little more resilient, develop better coping skills, to develop some strategies on how to deal with some stressful situations, give them some social emotional leadership skills, and we're hoping to see a difference in their abilities across those 3 areas: attendance, discipline, and grades, which are most important. Also, Middletown High School North is participating in a school climate transformation project. This is through the auspices of the New Jersey Department of Education and Rutgers University. In October, we administered the New Jersey Climate Survey to staff, students, and parents. The representatives came, we looked at the data, and it indicated that there's 3 areas of the 9 domains that were tested. One in particular is our emotional environment, the physical environment, and also teaching and learning. We went to a training session last Friday in Randolph, New Jersey. We had to develop SMART goals based on the areas in which we hope to find improvement. That's the first year. We just recognize the areas and we develop a school improvement plan. And over the next 2 years, then we have to see the progress that we make over that time span. So there's several schools within the state of New Jersey that are participating in this. We're the 3rd cohort, and we're hoping to make a difference in our climate and culture in school. And parents, you can just see a survey sample, and that results would be there. And if anybody else wants to take the survey, we're hoping to do this again in the spring, just to see the difference once we start focusing on those 3 areas that are necessary for improvement.
Okay, the district completed a special education review last spring. Some of the recommendations included expanding the professional development opportunities for paraprofessionals, as well as promoting student independence.
So last year we started our paraprofessional training with the paras being in the classroom with the teachers and really focusing on evidence-based practices, different behavior plans, and other expectations as far as a new role to a paraprofessional. This year we actually created there was a paraprofessional development committee, a professional development committee where we had a paraprofessional on with responsibilities outlined and specific topics that they wanted to discuss. So some of the things we added were Google Classroom, understanding behavior plans, the BCBA has done some fading procedures. We have run, this is the third actual professional development where we do the roles of the paraprofessional, and the paras had to design what they thought the role of paraprofessional was. They came up with their own definition, so it was really powerful for them to come in and decide what they thought their role of paraprofessional was.
Sorry. Yeah, so like Ms. Timmons said, the 2-day training with deciding what PDs we're going to come up with were not just with the paras, but also the teacher input, SBSS input from all the buildings. So they were the ones that brought all the information to us and really decided which PDs that they wanted this year. And it's been really beneficial. We've had a really great turnout at all the levels. Some additional PDs, we had paras from elementary and middle school. Mrs. Marrow presented on reading and writing workshop and how the paras to support during those times, especially also with math and different content areas. Instead of just them, sometimes they're not sure what to do, they're off to the side and they don't know what to do. So after that training, they really were like, thank you, I understand what we're doing, and it was really beneficial. Some other ones that we've been doing were behavior management, fostering independence, sign language, how to use my learning plan, and all the other ones that Sharon had mentioned. Just to continue the work work that we've been doing in order to foster independence for our students, we're taking a continued closer look at where paraprofessionals are needed and making sure that when students are able to be on their own, that we're allowing that to happen, not only when our students are aging out of our programs, but at all the levels, whether that's elementary, middle school, or high school.
Okay. So we strategically started with the goals that focused on making sure that our students are available to learn. So removing any external variables that may complicate their ability to be on task and ready to acquire new skills and have focus during the school day. And that is what those first couple of slides really represented. The administrative teams and the teaching staff, the certificated staff members focus on making sure that all students are available to learn. So the next organizational change that we launched this year, new to the district, was the launch of the revised middle school schedule. And our 3 middle school principals are here to give an update on the launch of that new schedule, what changes we've already made, and where we are looking for the future.
So with the first couple months of the new schedule already in place, what we've realized is we're right about where we thought we would, recognizing some of the issues that still need to be addressed, as well as some of the positives that have come about with the new schedule. Mr. Curry and I had an opportunity to attend a scheduling workshop with a guru 2 weeks ago, who went through a variety of different scheduling options. There's some pretty obscure and some pretty wild schedules out there throughout the country and throughout some other countries that he showed us. And what we really found was that, from a structure standpoint, bell schedule-wise, we have a pretty solid model here, and he agreed. We still recognize that there's some other components that still need to be sorted out, but from a structure standpoint, we're in a really good place, and he liked what he saw from what we had to offer. Mr. Lawson's been contacted from some outside districts to already come and check out the schedule structure that we have, because they're looking to implement it. And just at the table that Mr. Curry and I were at when we were at this professional development, we had 2 school districts from North Jersey taking pictures of our schedule from our website as something to take back and possibly explore. So they had some questions, and they may be reaching out to us to visit in the very near future. But some operational items that we were able to accomplish, we found that with the new adjustment in time, starting slightly earlier and ending a few minutes later, has had a positive impact on the busing situation. In all of our schools, it seems to be much smoother. There's road closures and things like that happen from time to time that are out of our control, but generally speaking, our arrival and dismissal times are running pretty smoothly. Elimination of homeroom hasn't really been a general concern. We're still working through trying to make sure that all of the students throughout the course of the building can hear the morning announcements. If you're in a phys ed class and changing in that first part of the day, it might be a little difficult to hear. So we've all taken different methods and steps in our own buildings to try and address that issue, and sharing some with each other. Also, meetings that usually took place during that homeroom period, some of those, the coaches and advisors have taken different steps to try and remediate that and still meet with the kids in the morning time before missing any class time. We have found that with shortening the schedule from 11 periods down to 7, with a lunch, we found that those transitions have been positive because there's less flow in the hallway and less disruptions throughout the course of the day. The passing time going from 3 minutes to 2 has been quick, but it is manageable in most cases. There still are some concerns with some students getting from one end of the building, physical education classes, back to their communities, but the teachers have been flexible in accepting them into their classes. And in some of the school districts that we talked about in the scheduling, they have no passing time. So they were happy to know that we even had some built in with this schedule. And the length of the lunch periods minus the first couple days changing over to the new system has proven to be adequate, giving the students enough amount of time and having them throw out all of their trash and dismiss to lunch before they have a little too much downtime in that particular period. Class length has been received generally positive across all disciplines. ELA is still adjusting to that time adjustment, going from the 80 to 60, but for all the other courses and all the other content areas, they've received that consistent 60-minute block as a positive amount of time for middle school students. And again, ELA is continuing to work and adjust to that adjustment in time frame. Community and common planning has provided teachers and support staff an opportunity to meet together. Guidance counselors have had an opportunity to meet with more grade level teachers and it's had a more positive impact on our INRS process in identifying kids who may need additional services or may have some additional issues taking place that, that's communicated amongst all of those community teachers, and has allowed for some other discussions to take place with administration and other staff members in a common time. Advisory is continuing to evolve. Just from first marking period to second, there's been some significant adjustments to that time period. Opening the makerspace and media center during certain times to allow students in advisory access to those spaces, so that they can do some of the things that they need to do on their voluntary choice projects. That's been received generally positive between the feedback we've received from the first marking period and the second. Independent reading continues to be one of the most popular options for the students that they choose across in their advisory period. That seems to be a pretty common theme that we've seen in all of our schools. And the Spark project continues to evolve, and we continue to emphasize the importance of students participating in that voluntary assignment so that we can have a nice event at the end of the year where we can showcase some of the work and some of the personalized learning that we're trying to incorporate in that period that you learned about a little bit earlier in the presentation. The community and the exploratory cycles have increased the exposure that the kids are getting to their classes and to different courses that will help them make better selections as they're possibly choosing their high school courses and pathways. So, they're in the second marking period of those, so there's still time to develop that, and some kids need some more time to be exposed to some different courses that they may like more than others. But we have found that it's going to be positive for them to choose courses going into the high school, particularly with our 8th graders. There is a planned update to our study skills curriculum in the spring, so that's one of the courses that the students take in 6th grade that will already be adjusted, based on some of those curricular revisions. Phys Ed and Health has really received the schedule positively. That increase in time has given them a significant amount more time to do some stretching and sport-specific stretching and sport-specific skill activities in the Phys Ed period, where it used to be so short with changing out, changing in and changing out, that it was a lot of gameplay. So now they're able to do more skill and stretching development prior to transitioning to gameplay. And they've also found that it has increased participation with the length of time and being able to, in some cases, consolidate just one grade in the gym as opposed to, in some cases, combining 6 and 8. We're finding more participation from the 6th graders in that regard. So they've been really positive about that. And the adoption of the world cultures classes has really provided an additional option for some other students with their world language choices that better suit, their particular needs when it comes to a world language or a cultural immersion class. So.
I think one of the most important parts of this is from the beginning of recreating this new schedule was the collaboration and work with all the parents, teachers, community members, students to get all their input. And now that once we have created this new schedule, we really wanted to continue that process. And a lot of the things that Mike has spoken about has been feedback that we've gotten over the course of just since September, since the new schedule has been rolled out. I know Mr. Scarano, Mr. Lawson, and myself have met with student groups, we've met with teacher groups, we've met with parent groups to make sure that if there's anything we can evolve, change, adapt to make the schedule even better, we will certainly be open to doing those things.
Yeah, and along those lines a little bit more, because I know advisory is a topic that comes up a lot, and what I would say is that what advisory looks like in the beginning of the second marking period was even very different than it did look in the first marking period. And we were pretty open about that from the beginning. We knew this was going to be a work in progress. One of the things we needed was our teachers, our staff, to actually experience it a little bit, because it was brand new for them as well. It's not an instructional period for them, it's actually a duty period for them, so they are facilitators. And in terms of students, very new for students. And a bit challenging for some in terms of personalized learning and not having that real direct instruction, but they have to set their own goals, they have to do their own reflection. But because it's challenging, it is a positive. One of the things in terms of it looking very different in the second marking period, we met, I guess it was in October, with our directors, ed techs, media specialists, all the principals, central office staff. We took a lot of feedback, and again, what the result of that was something that looked very, very different in the second marking period. Typical student during advisory other than the independent reading piece, has upwards of 40 personal learning opportunities that they can choose from on any given day. So there's a lot to offer for them to explore, and it's something that we're going to continue to tweak.
And I think Mrs. Morales is going to highlight some of those choices later in the presentation. But I do know that Mr. Lawson was very excited to host the administrators and teachers from Homedale. Their middle school representatives came to visit Thorne Middle School here in Middletown a few weeks ago to learn more about our new schedule. I know you were excited, and they walked away with a lot of good ideas, very interested and very surprised to see some of the nuances that we incorporated into our daily schedule, and looking forward to being able to replicate that in Homedale. And I know Colts Neck has reached out to us. They were a partner with us last year, and they were excited to see the changes we made, to learn from those as well, so that they could enhance their schedule. And aside from the North Jersey districts that already have reached out to us here in Middletown.
And real quick about that Homedale visit, one of our biggest challenges with the middle school schedule was the fact that we were losing 20 minutes in language arts, and picking that up in advisory with independent reading. When Homedale came, there was actually an English teacher there. It was from the SAP school, and I asked how many minutes they have. They only have 43 minutes for language arts. So they're kind of hoping to go in the other direction. So.
Thank you. So now that we've kind of framed out the structure of the day and having students present and available to learn and how we organize the day for them, the next heavy lifting or work that comes between administrators and teachers and supporting our students is analyzing their profiles as learners. And a lot of times we link that to the word data, and data sometimes, for many people, they jump to the conclusion that just means test scores, and that's just one piece of a large matrix of pieces of data that we collect and analyze to really get a better idea of who our students are as learners, where their needs are, where their interests are, and how we can help support them in closing any achievement gaps or further enriching their skill sets. So with that being said, I would like to ask Dr. Octobello and some of his fellow colleagues to come up and talk about how at the building level, the principals work with their staff, with their teams of teachers and support specialists to really close or focus in on those learner profiles and support our students.
So one of the things that I think is important that we say a lot is we take data in and then we have to take action steps from that data. What do we do with the data? So there's a number of things that we collect. You can link to, and it's in the presentation, just some examples of different things that we certainly look at, and we look at them at different times of the year. We get a lot of performance assessment data back on our kids over the summer, so the administrators who are in the room will spend a great deal of time analyzing that data and preparing it for their teachers. So for example, we talk about reflection points. So we're going to review that data. We're going to look to identify any areas of strength, areas of weaknesses, and we begin to identify opportunities for growth on an individualized perspective, grade level, as well as a school-wide. We look for trends. We're then present that data to our staff to encourage them. For example, something you're looking at here is a year-over-year comparison, and if you have teachers that remain in the same grade in the same subject area year-over-year, they have an opportunity to see how their students are doing. The next slide will show you, this is called an evidence statement, which we are provided, and then we can break that evidence statement down and identify specific areas in both reading and writing or in any part of math, and we can identify the exact strand and or standard that we are having a deficiency in, or the exact standard or strand that we have a high strength area in. Not only from our school, but for example, I could reach out to Mr. Whitman, who in 4th grade math we know has done exceptionally well, and I can look at his evidence statement and collaborate with him about what his teachers are doing in the class to raise this specific standard if it's a weakness that we have at NAVISing. So we have those collaborative opportunities. We present that data. We organize that data in our schools based on the standards. We let the staff know exactly what that standard says. And then once that's provided, we encourage our staff to develop what we call a homegrown building-based professional development hub, like what Ms. Shaw will speak to, where they're actually offering opportunities or offering examples of what they do in those standards for the other teachers in that grade level or in the school to look at. We have school-based data teams, so that's usually our reading development teachers, math specialist, principal, and the school behavioral support specialist. We meet with each teacher and we show them longitudinal data. Now, this is not standardized assessment data. This is both formative and summative assessment data that we collect throughout the year. And we look at it longitudinally. We discuss each individual student with every teacher in that meeting. We identify students who are in need of any tiered intervention and or need of academic enhancement. So we have some students that are performing so well, and the data is showing us that they need some additional activities to offer them opportunities to extend their learning. At those meetings, we identify students who need a SMART plan, who will document the information with respect to that SMART plan, when the following meetings will take place, and any data that would be necessary. And in one day, we potentially could talk about the longitudinal data for every student. What you're looking at is an example of every student in the school. So this is just an example of a longitudinal data chart that Navasync uses. All student names and teacher names have been taken off of it. But it kind of gives you what we're looking at in one of those meetings. So you have a whole different litany there of assessments that we use, and you will see different kids have different colors. For example, if a student is in orange here, it means they didn't meet the benchmark standard on that particular assessment. If they're in gray, they're a watch. If they're in yellow, they could be in our tiered intervention process. We have this for every kid at every grade and every subject. So we know exactly where our kids are, and we know where to go with them, and then we meet 3 to 4 times a year based on where our formative and summative assessments fall, to review, revise, reflect, and recalibrate as needed. So we take a lot of data in, and then we take a lot of action as a result of it.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about how we monitor certain subgroups within the data. Data can be very confusing, it can be very vast. It can also be very targeted. So when you first get your scores, everyone looks at it, the first thing you do is you look at your school. So you look at the school as a whole. Then you can break it down to maybe grade level. All right, so this grade's doing this grade's doing that, where are we doing well here, where are we not? And then you can break it down even further to the different subgroups. At New Monmouth, we had certain subgroups that were doing very well and other ones that were not doing very well. So then it's the charge of the data team to figure out, okay, what are we doing right for these groups and where can we do better for these groups? So you can come up with many different strategies for tiered intervention, to small group instruction, targeting students for before and after school learning academy. There's a million different things that you can do. So once we come up with our group and our plan, we apply it. Now, it's not where you just put it into place and then, all right, we wait for next year's park scores and we see if it worked. That's not good enough. The beauty of data is that it's fluid. A lot of people think that it's black and white. It's actually not, it's gray. There's a lot of different areas in there in which that you can make tweaks. So that's where Linkit comes in. We look through all the things that are going on in Linkit to see if those subgroups are improving throughout the course of the year when we're meeting. If they are, great, everything's working, let's just keep doing what we're doing. If they're not, okay, now it's time to tweak things and target these groups so that we can show the best possible projection going forward for those groups and that they can succeed.
And as further examples of how buildings are using data to set specific targets or goals, Mr. Whitman, Mr. Mbimbo, and Mr. Leone are going to talk about specific plans they put in place to meet the needs of their learners at this time. Mr. Smith, sorry. Sorry.
Okay, so at River Plaza, one of the first things, and kind of piggybacking what Mr. Ferry said, is when we receive data, one of the first things that we'll look at is some overall trends. And one of the things at River Plaza, if you click the first one,
sorry,
it's no problem. One of the things at River Plaza is we noticed our 4th and 5th grade math scores were above what we saw when we compared to the district average. Our 3rd grade scores were not above that. So that's what we wanted to do, is to really identify that we saw a trend in 3rd grade. We needed to dig a little bit deeper as to what exactly was the reasoning for that. So one thing that we wanted to do is we wanted to target grades 2 and 3. This year we started a pilot Linkit assessment in grade 2, where we wanted to see exactly what specific areas in grade 2 and 3 was there the most room for growth. This is an example of a custom report of our grade level, all the students who took the end of the year grade 1 assessment, and it breaks it down into the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. What specific areas was there the most room for growth that we could focus on? After that, the next step was to meet with the individual teachers to review this data with them and set up targeted plans for how we want to address that. What we identified in grade 2 was that we wanted to really look at improving measurement and data. And in grade 3, it was number and operation fractions. We set up individual data meetings with those teachers to review the data, to bring to light for them, here are the areas that we think that we can see the most growth. And we set up individual student plans for each class. It was really great to see the alignment of the district goal becoming our school goal, then becoming our specialist goal with the work of our math specialist, all the way down to teacher setting goals, and then of course the personalized learning, the student setting goals. So an example of what this might look like after reviewing the data with the teachers is we're able to see exact questions on the Lincoln assessment that students got wrong. So we're looking at one question that, let's say, only 47% of the students got this question right regarding measurement and data. When we show the question to the teacher, it looked a little bit different than the questions they were traditionally asking about measurement and data. It was a little bit more complex. They needed to dig a little bit deeper. A great example of it was this example of an activity that we incorporated, because it wasn't just asking something like, how long is this pencil? The question would be the question might ask, how much longer is this pen from this pencil? And they're both on a ruler, and it's not exactly measured. So the teacher said, well, we're not exactly asking questions just like that in class, and now we know we want to make sure that our students are experiencing questions like that. And once our teachers were able to see those were the types of questions being asked, we're able to make sure that our students have those opportunities. Our next step is that we're going to continue giving these assessments throughout the year and continue to, try to close those gaps. So next, I'm going to give it over to Mr. Moon.
So at Lincroft School, we use the data to take a very prescriptive approach. We took a look at PARC data from the last 2 years, and we identified areas for growth in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, but in particular looking at 4th grade, and how we could change instruction or modify instruction for our now current 5th graders. So we tried a 3-step process, or we're trying a 3-step process this year. What can we do in the classroom? What can we do outside of the classroom? And what can we do after school? We identified operations and algebraic thinking, numbers in base 10, and numbers in fractions as areas for growth. And we assisted teachers in helping develop SGOs that revolved around those particular standards. We then took that data and created a school-wide data team that could just dive deeper into standards that were addressed, and in particular the problems, as Mr. Whitman stated, on Lincoln or on PARC that we needed to address. And then we developed targeted subgroups of students that we figured we can make the most growth with, or that could show the most growth. The next step is to create a team that can actually go and provide additional support to teachers. So we utilized our math specialists to help with the ideal math lesson in the classroom, help provide number talks to all of our students, in particular for these 3 standards, and help to create some more center-based activities that would address these areas of weakness. The next step was then to create a data team that would actually go and provide supplemental interventions periods for identified students. So we have 5 to 7 minutes each and every day. A teacher with some flexibility in their schedule will provide some pull-out services, additional intervention services for these targeted kids. We're running it on a 6 to 8 week plan, following our INRS model as well, and we have a check-in about every 4 weeks where the students are provided with some kind of short assessment piece. We're collecting more information, we're completing data logs, and then articulating as a group. And then the final piece is to then build in time with our after-school learning path, hyper-focus on those same standards and goals for our students. So we have things happening inside the classroom with our teaching staff, we have things happening outside of the classroom with our interventionists, and then we have things happening, great things happening after school.
So first I'd like to start off at Leonardo Grade School. All my teachers are doing something. We're going to highlight a 5th grade teacher right now, and certainly all of our teachers are using data to form their instruction and personalized learning and catch students up, work on areas that they're deficient in, that they should have a knowledge base in, along with the current curriculum is moving forward. So can you click on that data analysis? In the 5th grade, there's a trend of overall math PARC scores going down below state average in the past 3 years. So disaggregating some historical data,
Dr. Altabello, it's hard for me to say, Dr. Altabello, he talked about the evidence statements. So the middle of the slide there talks about how we analyze the evidence statements and how in the 5th grade, our students were underperforming in 5th grade fractions. And then historically, those 3 evidence statements also show deficiency in the fractions and the 5th grade test. Coincidentally, in the beginning of September, we gave the Linkit Form C from 4th grade right there. And those are all the 4th grade standards and fractions that our students do not perform so well in as well. So basically, 5th grade curriculum moving forward, what can we do to help these students on 4th grade fractions? Kim, if you go back to the other slide. So I met collaboratively with my math specialist and my 5th grade teacher, and we created a plan where for the next 4 chapters of math, using the ideal math lesson in center time, we created some activities that addressed 4th grade standards. That's just an example from chapter 2. So they're in the center once a day. They have an opportunity to spend 6 or 7 minutes working on some activities that can hopefully close the gap and on 4th grade fractions before they're explicit in fraction instruction in the 5th grade. So, and again, that's what all of our purposeful analyzing the data and use it to inform instruction goes on in all grades. I just want to spotlight 5th grade math. Thank you.
So the next piece is to take what we as teachers and administrators recognize as data and how we use it to personalize or differentiate instruction for students based upon their needs, and then have the students own their learning profiles and set their own goals. And Mr. Milando and Mr. Leone are going to give us examples of what that looks like in our classrooms.
So as we've been hearing, we have all of this sophisticated, interesting data about the students who, in our cases, are 10 and under. So what we decided to do was capitalize on the fact that everyone likes to learn more about themselves. The teachers teased out individual data about the students, shared with the students, or starting to share with the students their areas of strength and their areas that are weaker, and giving them options of areas that they'd like to work on. And so what you kind of can see here is a little bit the succession of what would happen. The teacher meets with the student, applauds them for where they're doing well, shares with them areas that they think they might do better. The student chooses one and writes a goal for themselves. The teacher kind of coaches them along with it and works on it with them. They have a duration of time that they work on it. And then when the time frame is complete, the student will get to self-assess and celebrate themselves for having accomplished their goal. The goal is based on the data that we've been hearing about and on the standards that are driving that. So what we're basically doing is including the person that all of this information is about in the making of the goal and its success.
So at Mount I don't want to repeat a lot of what my colleagues have said about data. Over the summer, we did a deep dive on the data. We did a 3-year data analysis, and we found that the math scores in the 3rd grade were flat. There were no peaks, no valleys. It was just very flat. And we quickly decided that we wanted to get the students excited. How do we get them excited? How do we engage them more so that we can see a spike in the scores and improve the scores? So we came up with the idea of giving each of the students a little bit of voice and a little bit of choice. Most of the time in school, they're told what to do, they're told where to go, what time to eat lunch, what time to go to recess. In this case, it was write your own goal, choose your own goal, tell us what you want the goal to be, tell us when you've achieved your goal. And as you can see on the slide here, we actually had the art teacher make gumball machines, flat for the wall, and then we gave the kids little colored gumballs. And you can see as the gumball machine fills up, then when they achieve a goal, they take it out of the gumball machine and they put it on the board next to show that they've achieved, and they take a new goal and they put it back into the gumball machine. And basically the whole idea is we want the students to take a little bit of ownership over their learning. It's given them choice, which has built their excitement. And so far, as you can see, we're obviously 4 months in, but students have started to pick it up and run with it. So at first we built a math content learning team, which included the 5 3rd grade teachers, the math specialist, Dr. Kerrigan, from the district level, and myself. And we got together and we kind of came up with this plan, and from here there's going to be a math vertical team, which will include the grade below and the grade above, so we can kind of expand on this student voice and student choice program that we've begun this year. So so far so good on it.
So in the past couple of months, we have been providing updates through Curriculum Committee on our Gifted and Talented program. And before we launch into that, we do differentiate and personalize learning in our regular classroom instruction and always have. What our Gifted and Talented program is striving to do is identify students that have very strong academic abilities and characteristics of learning, such as intrinsic motivation, task commitment, persistence, natural curiosity, that now can be driven even further into higher expectations for these personalized learning experiences to take place. So we are getting ready to enter our first cycle of our program, which will be a 10-week cycle for students in grades 1 through 6. That will begin in January of this year. We have identified what we feel is a strong cohort of students to really dive deep into these personalized learning situations that can take really any tone they want. We're leaving it flexible. We're leaving it up to the student to be the driver. One of the biggest components of personalized learning is giving students voice and choice in their own learning. And we've identified students that have strong academic capabilities and can afford now to take those abilities and apply them to greater situations, not only outside of the classroom, but within the classrooms as well. And we're hoping that this work continues and continues to be stimulated with all of our learners. So our first cycle will be starting January 1st for when we return.
And as our middle school principals discussed, advisory is taking shape, and our ed techs at the middle school level, along with our media specialists, are working very closely with the principals in each 3 buildings and Mrs. Morales to support students in setting their own personalized learning goals and using the time and advisory to work towards them.
Right, so the link right there is actually a link to a student's personal learning log. So every day they come into class, they take the first 5 minutes to choose from the choice board, which we'll show you soon, that Mr. Lawson already mentioned. And they'll set their goal for the day, they highlight what they want to work on, and then at the end of the period, the classroom teacher, or the teacher that is facilitating the advisory time, has them reflect on what they learned and make a note kind of where they left off so that they can refer back. This is shared on the Google Classroom, so all the classroom teachers can access it and see what their own students are working on during this time and make suggestions for what maybe they should be working on to better, enrich their curricular area that they're in charge of. So you can see it's kind of an evolving process. Some of the kids are doing it by hand, some are doing it digitally. It's kind of whatever works for them.
So the next bullet talks about small group instruction and individual conferences, and that's really the heart of what pushes personalized learning for students. It's what our teachers have really been able to look at students and give them the way that they're creating their own goals. And students are taking that, even in advisory, they're setting goals. But the biggest thing is that they're looking at what they can do as learners. Just the other day, I watched a teacher, just as I use the word, coach into what students can do, and then push them a little bit harder to think about where their learning is so that they can move along a progression. And that's just the skills they need to do to move along, move up to the next level. I'd like to share with the board an actual student's work that was her personal goals. These are her reading goals. As you can see on the charts up there, the one big picture is of a teacher's demonstration notebook, and that demonstration notebook is a collaboration with the literacy coaches and the classroom teachers, diving deep into what that data is telling them about students and the instruction that they are currently doing, and then helping students create checklists so that they can go in and look at their own learning to push their thinking. And that one other picture up top are students' actual reading goals. Teachers did not tell students how to create those goals. They looked at their own reading, looked at the checklist, and then developed a plan. In this book is a student's thinking of their own independent plan to what they needed to do as a reader, and I'd like to share that with all of you for evidence to show you the thinking that a 7th grade student is actually doing.
I think Dr. Cartier and Mr. Alston are going to highlight some of the personalized learning efforts and student goal setting that is occurring at our high school level.
Okay, the theme this year at High School North was use your voice, share your vision, expand your versatility. What will your legacy be? So the civic leaders at High School North have met with me personally, and they have developed their own projects. As you can see here, they're doing some artwork. They're doing the columns here, the concepts they learned in their art class. Some of the students are concerned about test anxiety, the upcoming quarterlies, the PARCC testing, and AP testing. So they have some ideas on how they could maybe bring in therapy dogs during blocks 3 and 4 during the testing periods. Others are involved with the Environmental Science Club, so they're helping me to complete the greenhouse project and do some beautification projects on the campus. So, and also in addition to physical education, they have great ideas to have challenges with the staff and students. Also have competitions during blocks 3 and 4, to get the students out of the hallways, to come into the bubble, to see some athletic events, and in the spring to go out on the turf. Both high schools, I have to tell you, in terms of drama workshop as an example, they do student-run productions. They write the scripts, they cast the performers, they do the choreography, light and sound, they enter competitions, say Bucks County, the film festival with the TV productions classes, they're doing their own film. One young lady, for example, at High School North has made arrangements with a recording artist to use his songs. She's bringing in a choreographer. They're again doing all of this. This is the idea of personalized learning at the high school level. I invited Mr. Alston here to speak because he's representing both the innovation and design classes at both high schools as well as the media specialists. We'll have students coming in. The libraries at both high schools is the hub of the school. I mean, I'm telling you, you can't even get a seat here during blocks 3 and 4, after school activities, what they're doing with makerspace, coding, and so forth. So I'll let Mr. Alston continue.
Appreciate it, Dr. Curry. So this is an example of digital items that was just shared out last week with respect to additive code. So what we were doing during that week, and actually leading up in November, I'd asked students a little bit more about where they are with coding. So let's go backwards. Last year we launched a class called Innovation Design in our high school, as Dr. Curry said. And it's all about grit, perseverance, problem actual identification and solving it. Long story short, in November, as we were talking about coding, and we were launching a lot of our projects, what they're coming forward with, they even identified that they definitely wanted to increase that skill. So it said, great, challenge on. We're going to take the hour of code, we're going to continue to obviously imagine, create, play, share, reflect, innovate, inspire, which is actually from MIT Media Lab, and what we're doing is literally trying to help them to move forward in these smaller teams, whether it's collaboratively or independently, and I asked them to basically create an app for the school that can be shared with others, whether it happens to be staff or obviously other students can then engage in these coding activities. There's some development with it, but obviously this is just one brief example of some of the evidence of all of our children working towards this progress.
So it's great to see during blocks 3 and 4 now, so many students are going into room 1203 where Mr. Walsh is working with them and teaching them some skills. So it's great to see that happen.
As the new New Jersey student learning standards have rolled out, one of the main focus of the new standards is preparing students for college and careers. And we have taken a lot of strides and effort in the last couple of months to increase students' exposure to college and career readiness skills and help them develop those skills so that they're ready for workplace and college experiences.
So, excuse me, when it comes to our course offerings and our pathways/academies, we're consistently looking to incorporate courses that implement problem solving, collaboration. You see some pictures that I've taken throughout my travels around the district, and one of the most consistent themes within our career-oriented courses is that the kids are always collaborating on something. They're always working together on something with a goal in mind. When we talk about the middle school, there's this emphasis on exploration. One of the hyperlinks that we have here takes us to our sequence of courses between the community cycle and the exploratory cycle.
As far as careers are concerned, we incorporated an introduction to business / personal finance for our middle school children, so that at an earlier age they are utilizing a lot of the skills that are necessary to be a well-informed consumer in our society right now. We incorporated a career exploration course for our middle school students as well, which focuses on the various career clusters that are recognized by our federal government as well as our state government, so that our middle school kids are getting a sense of what's out there in order to build interests, passions, and then hopefully working towards those goals. As we navigate back with respect to the high school, we have our career-oriented pathways. We have our STEM pathway, we have our GLP3, or Government Law and Public Policy. We have our BMAP, or Business Management Administration pathway. We are consistently evaluating our course sequences within these pathways to make sure that we are maintaining that industry standard, so to speak. So as things change within these particular career areas, we are looking for ways to enhance our coursework for our students here in Middletown to ensure that they're gaining exposure not only to these careers, but they're experiencing on a day-to-day basis what they're likely to see in those areas. We've incorporated a various amount of electives that are relatively new. Up here we talk about senior career seminars. So getting ready for careers entails getting experience out there in the work world. Senior career seminar is a program for our seniors at North and South, where for half the year they're learning a lot of the soft skills necessary to be successful in a work environment, and then the second half of the year, working with the teacher / coordinator, they're getting internships, they're going out in the community, and they're gaining some really, really good experience. Our students finally at both high schools now are really starting to kind of chirp up a little bit as the acceptances at new internship sites continue to roll in. Digital literacy, digital literacy and professional portfolio development, again, another piece that allows them to create. And again, like Mr. Olson had mentioned just a few moments ago, innovation and design.
Okay, to further try to replicate the college-going experience, Dr. Kerrigan has introduced a concept that he first brought to Rutgers University as an adjunct professor, right here to our two high schools in Middletown, and those are the active learning classrooms or labs.
So last time I was here reporting out, I was speaking about the active learning classrooms that were coming, but now they are here. Here are some photos of our two active learning labs. The one at the top is here at High School North, and the one at the bottom is at High School South. So as you'll notice, there are wall whiteboards around the perimeter of the room. We have some flexible seating. You know, the students can choose to sit at tables with comfortable seats, or there's seats that have desks that can move either way depending on whether you're right or left-handed, so they're completely adaptable. There's easels so that students can take them and work out problems at their desks and then go hang them up in like a gallery walk type format. So it's really exciting. The teachers have their default setup for the room, but they could change it as the class structure changes depending on the lesson. Now that we have the furniture, we're working on effective implementation and sustaining what we're bringing in. So we meet in each high school once a month with the teachers in the room, and we have a focus topic during lunch. We'll talk about assessment, group work, how to facilitate collaboration, things of that sort. And we have the teachers communicate between the two buildings, which is even better because we share ideas. And this is piggybacking off of our pineapple chart. I also mentioned this the last time we reported out. The active learning classrooms have created a buzz, so a lot of teachers are walking in and out and just seeing what their colleagues are doing, and they're applying it in their own rooms. Today, as a matter of fact, one teacher borrowed some of the personal whiteboards and brought them into her own classroom that wasn't an active learning class, but just tried to switch it up and have students work out graphs, tables, and equations on the whiteboard. So it's really great. It's created a lot of buzz, and the students love it. We have students in Algebra 1 through AP Calculus in these classrooms at both schools.
Dr. Kerrigan, you have to elaborate and explain the whole pineapple chart connotation.
Sure. So pineapple chart is an informal, voluntary form of professional development. Any teacher who puts a pineapple on his or her door is basically putting out a sign of hospitality. That's what a pineapple is. And if the teacher signs up, they know they're going to do something really good for 20 minutes, or at the start of class, or at the end of class, maybe a new review game, or a way to question students, or discovery activity. They placed it on the department pineapple chart located on Google Drive that everybody has access to. And then if a colleague has off and wants to go in and check out that strategy used in action in front of students, they're free to quietly walk in and just observe and then walk out. So it's just a very, informal, nice way to get some professional development without leaving the building for a full day workshop. You can see it implemented in Middletown with Middletown students and with an expert on the topic. So as you can see, this is just a snapshot of the chart at South, and teachers are signing up on a daily basis. Same for high school north.
Very innovative, job-embedded type of professional development.
Thank you.
So as part of our emphasis on, incorporating additional career-oriented skills, inevitably we have to have a conversation about rigor and perseverance. We talked about social and emotional learning a little bit earlier. That does play into this more inclusive district philosophy that we've adopted with respect to advanced placement courses. There's a lot of research out there that very clearly indicates that mere exposure for students in an advanced placement environment leads to an increased amount of success in the post-secondary world and beyond. So what we're really looking to emphasize now is the idea that advanced placement classes are not just for your, quote-unquote high flyers. Anybody that wants to take the leap and anybody that wants to put the work in and wants to challenge themselves, those kids are going to benefit substantially from this more inclusive philosophy that we've adopted.
So I'm going to be brief here because the middle school principals already covered some of this, but as you know, our makerspaces continue to develop in our schools. We have makerspace challenges. We all know that for students to know what they want to do for future college and careers, they need time to make, explore, dabble, experiment, and that's what our makerspaces are for. At the high schools, they have some pretty nice high-tech equipment that students are very fortunate here in Middletown to have. So you can check out the links later to see what the challenges have been over the past couple months. Some are very high-tech, some are very low-tech to appeal to all different types of learners. Again, we have opportunities for passion projects or Spark at all levels for our students to figure out what those passions might be. Our advisory choice board helps guide our students during the advisory time, as I mentioned earlier. Here's an example. This one was a Thorn example. They're all the same, but Thorn likes to use their colors a lot, which we admire, so the school spirit's great. So that they kind of just put this into different categories. So a student goes into the Google Classroom and selects for the day what they'd like to work on. And again, I showed you where they write down their goal for the day on the other document. And this has been very popular. It's an evolving document as well. So teachers have input on this. They can suggest things to add. So from when we first launched this, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, almost 3 months ago, wow, time flies.
Well, the revised was actually about a month ago.
Okay, so the revised one, since then we've added a lot more. So as we hear from the students too, what they like, they find things that we didn't even know existed, we start adding them. So this will be a nice document by the end of the year with tons of choices on it.
And again, the goal was to implement an advisory period at the middle school where we can start to sustain ownership of students and an understanding of how they can best utilize that time so that when they enter the high school, they know how to take advantage of that time in the middle of their day.
And finally, we're promoting the global ed piece, connecting our students with the world with our technology we have. So we've had a lot of PD on that for teachers. We've shown them how to connect our classrooms. We've done a lot of different Skype sessions with classrooms all over different areas of the country. So the kids are really kind of seeing all new perspectives. They're making friends. A lot of them are using Flipgrid to post videos and collaborate with other classrooms. So it's been a great experience for the student. They get very excited every time that they know they're going to be able to connect with a classroom from somewhere else. And again, our teachers are getting very excited about this too because they get to learn from other educators from other areas of the world. So this is also an evolving initiative that we hope to continue to grow.
And we're very grateful and very fortunate in Middletown because our Board of Ed, our administrative team, and our building principals definitely value the PD for our teachers to fill the capacity that they need in order to produce those opportunities for our students to learn and to take on personalized learning And just recently, we had high school teachers attending Teachers College Reading and Writing Project to learn about book clubs and how to foster that in that setting. And their takeaway was tremendous. Their heads were spinning and they were like, this work is really important. So it's that bridge that we need to start to find to move into creating those more student-centered classrooms that, like I said, we work here in a place that values our teachers' professional development in order to help sustain the type of instruction we need to foster student-centered activities, and it's happening. And it's all because everyone values that in the most gigantic way. And I don't know any other way to say that, but that's why, and I see evidence of the flipped classrooms, I see evidence of those flipped grids and students taking charge of their learning because of teachers having the opportunity to explore and get out beyond the district and in the district to fill their capacity as learners as well.
So as you know, our goal is to give our students as many real workplace experiences as possible, but also to replicate that when we can through opportunities within the school day as well. So as you already know, and Mr. Alston shared this with you at previous meetings, the high school student technology internships are going to grow throughout the school year as well as obviously in the summer. So that's something we're looking forward to. It's very popular, as you know, and more students keep asking about it. So we'd like to give more students the opportunity to continue with this. We have our student librarian program, which is very successful in all of our secondary schools, and the students are getting more and more empowered to take over many aspects of the media centers, from the makerspace areas to checking out books, to communicating with the public libraries, to assisting students, with their research. So this program has really evolved since I came into this role last year. Just seeing it evolve just in 1 year has just been amazing. The Tech Tutors Clubs continue to be very popular at the elementary level as well as at the secondary level, and they're creating things all the time to assist teachers with technology. I saw the other day on Twitter, an elementary school is using Makey-Makeys to create a kind of a digital sign-in, sign-out when a student needs to use the bathroom, that it would automatically put the student's name, the time, right into a spreadsheet for the teacher using a Makey-Makey. So it's pretty, I think it was the fourth and fifth grade students that did that. Pretty incredible. As Mr. Alston said before, we embrace computer science here in the district. We've been doing a lot more with coding this year. Our hour of code just passed the last week, but we do it all year round. So you'll see there's lots of different things the students could choose from last week, and this continues to be options during the advisory period at the middle school level, so they can code away all year if they'd like to, not just for the computer science week. We encourage our students to publish digitally for authentic audiences here, not just to turn into their teacher. So we continue to use Fuzzboo. A lot of our students have blogs where they publish their own writing and get feedback from their peers. And of course, our TV film programs are very popular and have been very successful, award-winning films. And so that's something that our students really enjoy, is to premiere these films to real audiences. They also have the student news program, which we're very proud of as well. What did you want to add?
Okay, I know Mr. Eugenio already spoke about the senior internships, and I just want to reassure everybody that we're going to continue that program for other students in April, May, and June. So that's open to any other student that would like to have an internship, and each high school has an advisor that's going to have oversight of that. But this was the first year that we're implementing the Senior Career Seminar. Also, beginning in January, we're implementing here at High School North NY and Squared, New Year, New North, because as part of our innovation team, we're doing cross-content curricular opportunities. We have approximately 33 teachers that are interested in participating in this program. Could you just turn that right there? Yes, thank you.
This one right here.
Curricular, co-curricular. The next line, right down, the second one, right. Okay, teachers who want to participate list what are their content topics that they're going to cover in a particular unit, and then they put down possible matches. So this is an opportunity now for other teachers to go and work collaboratively with a co-teacher, right? For us in a school this size, sometimes people get more or less complacent. They're in their one area, math teachers, English teachers, social studies teachers, and they don't get to know everybody in the school. So this is a driving force to get people to collaborate across content areas, not just in the elective setting, but also in the core subjects. And we have an example example, where it says more creative learning opportunities, where the fashion teacher worked collaboratively with the graphic arts teacher to create some projects with your students. So this is something that we are really going to encourage more collaboration among all staff members here at the school.
All right, so a couple of the ways that we are kind of using personalized learning and workplace readiness that go hand in hand are Skype for education. So Mrs. Morales already mentioned a couple ways that we're using Skype to connect our students to the rest of the world. One specific way that we're doing this is there's a program called Skype a Scientist. So we have various classes that are Skyping scientists, and they reach out to find scientists who do actual research to see what students may be interested in and if they would be interested in a career in the sciences. We've also used the same or similar program in our pathway presentations. So we bring in a lot of professionals into our pathway presentations, into our lunch blocks, so that students can get a feel for what sorts of careers they may actually end up in if they're interested in those fields of their pathway. So we've used Skype and Google Hangouts as one way to connect students to professionals in areas that we can't bring someone in because of their location. So that's one way that we've been able to do it. So then the senior internships in curricular versus co-curricular we've already discussed. But again, the main message there is that it's actually students who are choosing where they're going to work and what they're doing outside of the classroom, so they're able to pursue that passion that they have. Our structured learning experiences are programs that are geared toward our special education students. And it's ways that, again, we're able to get our students out into the workforce to experience what life is like after high school. So there are a ton of different places that they get to work.
And Mrs. Venuto, who is the coordinator, continues to try to explore various locations for the programs for the students to go to. And we're really looking within district, within our schools, to have students participate. So some of our high school students are going down to our elementary schools and they're working in some of our classes. And we're even continuing to do this during the extended school year program. We did also come back up with the Friday breakfast at Middletown South. The Brew Crew is up and running again, and we've had great feedback and the students are enjoying that. And also at Middletown South, some of the students are participating in structured learning experience within the cafeteria. And we're going to look to do some of that same thing at Middletown.
Thank you. So we strategically placed the arts portion of this right now in the presentation, so I could do a little song and a tap dance for you. Okay, I'm just kidding. But thank you all for being here tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about our Middletown Township Schools Arts Academy. And right here is our trailblazers. This picture was taken right here in this room. Our inaugural crew of students that are part of our Arts Academy here in the Middletown School District. And we are a little into our 4th month so far of bringing this to fruition. Myself and Mrs. Morales have been working very hard on this. Most people who have been working the hardest are our students and our teachers in this program, which we're grateful for, because without them, it would not exist. So what we have created so far, what the students have done, if you could turn to the Academy website. So we've started this website right now, and as you know, being in our 4th month, it's a work in progress. So if you work through here, we show the current tracks that we have, and there are various portions of this. We have the Arts Academy overviews. That's actually the presentation, and we're not going to go through that, but that was the presentation that we did along with our students at the Parent Information Night, which was just about a week and a half ago. If you have time to navigate our site, if you want to buy any items, we also sell clothing for fundraising events, because these are the exciting things we want to do for our students, but it costs some money. And we're looking to raise money through some of our own personal fundraising to have students have experiences outside the school, which we're already doing, but like take them into the city, work with local play organizations, Two Rivers, so on and so forth. So we are working our way through that. We're being fiduciarily responsible. Also, we have actively developing the Arts Academy's 6th track we're excited about, which is dance. And dance we're looking to open, anticipated for September 2019. And we also have 2 digital media electives that are in the process of being written right now for our digital media electives. We also have professionals from various arts industries that have hosted several student workshops here in the academy itself. They are professionals in the movie industry, digital media, arts, and we have so many more lined up, which we're so excited about. That has been taking place during the students' transition period, and we're going to continue that rolling as the year goes on. We're very excited also to announce our spring master classes. They have been scheduled for the five current academy tracks that we have. That will be taking place toward the end of this school year. We are looking to procure our current masters in the arts, our teachers right here in this district, to teach these master classes. These master classes, after it's all done, the culmination will have a show that will take place with our collaboration with the Middletown Arts Center. And that's going to be June 11th. And that's for Academy students and their families. And of course, any board members that would like to attend. And that's it for the Academy so far. Thank you all so much.
And ultimately, all of this are examples of the work that we are doing as we seek to obtain the next level Future Ready certification status, which no district yet has obtained. We are one of 3 districts statewide who are eligible this year, only 3, for application for gold status.
So as Mr. Paulson said before, if Future Ready went away tomorrow, we've said this before, this was in our plan well before. But it's nice to get the award if we're doing the work. So that's our goal, is to continue the work that we already were doing and then hopefully be recognized for all of the efforts that we've made. So far this year, we've brought in some pretty inspiring and knowledgeable presenters to work with the administrative team and our staff and colleagues on truly understanding what personalized learning looks like in our schools, because at the heart of Future Ready, of course, is personalized learning. We are required, as part of GOLD, to mentor other districts. So you already heard today, several other districts have already come to visit and see what we're doing here. We have another visit Friday from Belleville High School. We'll be coming to both of our high schools to talk to our teams and see the work that's going on in the classrooms. Please save the date, June 10th. We just reserved the date yesterday for our 3rd annual Innovation Fair for our K-12 students. It will be at High School North this year, so we'd love to see you there. More information will be posted on the website. And we were very excited today to find out that 12 of our sessions were accepted at the Mid-Atlantic Personalized Learning Conference in March. So many of our administrators and teacher leaders will be headed there to share our personalized learning journey with the rest of the tri-state area.
So we're almost at the end of the tunnel here. One of the things that is kind of wrapping us together, especially this year, was the development of our innovation teams. And that really came out of Future Ready, but an innovation team is really a group of volunteer educators that got together and they created that vision statement that you saw at the beginning of our slideshow. And what they're charged with doing really is cultivating the culture of personalized learning and just what learning is going to mean in Middletown for the next however many years we feel like that's the initiative. But I really am excited about our innovation team because they've already started to hit the ground running to develop that culture that we are looking really and striving to get. And it's not about, as we've said, about a certificate. It's really about what's best for our students here. And the resources that you have provided us over the past few years have all led us to where we are today. I don't want to put the bow on this package.
Thanks, that sounds good.
But the Future Ready right now is a very good starting point for us. Even though it's the goal, I'm sure they'll come up with some new initiatives. But you've heard a lot tonight about other districts wanting to come to Middletown and learn about what we're doing. And we're actually going out, like you said, to Spotswood to see what other best practices are out there. But the innovation teams, it's not a state-mandated initiative. It's a homegrown Middletown thing that we said, let's get this going and let's really cultivate that personalized learning mission, that vision, and everything that's in our strategic plan. And as we develop the next strategic plan, I'm sure you'll hear a lot more about personalized learning, not necessarily tech personalized learning, but just personalized learning and personalized learning for our staff, which is I think where we're segued into.
Yeah,
here.
Nice.
I think I'm the final slide, so I'll have to be brief. So we have, in this process, come to realize that we need to apply those tenets that we hold for students for personalized learning to our adult learners. We have over 1,000 staff members in the district, with administrators included, and oftentimes we tell people what they need to do professional for their own growth. So we have tried to change the mindset of this district this year and really take those philosophies of personalized learning for students and provide them to our staff members. And for us, it's the giving of autonomy for students to recognize and reflect on their own practice, set individual professional learning goals, and then have the autonomy, which is the biggest key, in pursuing those goals while still providing them structured supports within the district. So this year we've created what we refer to as our personalized staff learning days. We have a website where we house all of our offerings. We have an anchored professional learning calendar for the year that staff members know that they're participating in, and they're able to not only choose from the selections that we have, but also propose independent learning experiences that fit their needs based on where they really stand in their teaching career and their capacities with certain practices. The next phase for us is really how do we sustain all of these things in regards to personalized learning and all the initiatives that you've heard about tonight. Because sustainment and talking about future ready gold status, the sustainment is the key. It's great to say that it's happened and it's happening at this place and this space and time, but as a district we're always looking to grow. So how do we do that and how do we sustain it? So when we come back in the new year, we're going to be launching the second piece of our professional development initiative, which is job-embedded professional development at the secondary level. We'll be morphing together the idea of instructional rounds with lab sites, which you have heard of lab sites before, because it's exactly how we expanded our elementary and middle school workshop model for literacy instruction. So we're going to take those models and those philosophies, morph it with instructional rounds for teachers where they're visiting other classrooms, also hitting upon similar to what Dr. Kerrigan spoke about with pineapple charts, and we're going to provide teachers release time to go into other classrooms and really dive into what others around them are doing and how it's applicable to their own practice. That is the way to sustain change, especially for a group of people this large. So we're really excited about it, and I think our secondary teachers are going to benefit from it in the same way that our elementary teachers did and our middle school teachers did in that workshop model. So that's it. I'm done.
So ultimately, it's about the students and making sure that we're meeting the needs of learners in soon to be the year 2019. As you can tell, we thank you for your patience through this very long presentation, and it's only because of all your support that we're able to talk about all these great initiatives. So thank you, Board of Education. I know on behalf of the administrative team, we really value the support that you give us, not just in terms of finance, but also time and the ability to work together on all of these efforts. But it's really about the students. So it's about making sure that they're prepared for all the jobs that we've talked about over the last, several years that we don't even know exist yet, and making sure that they're on the cutting edge of computer science and literacy and civics and all of the STEAM subjects, and making sure that they not only have the coursework that prepares them for that, but real world experience while they're still here, part of our K-12 comprehensive school system. So on behalf of all the administrators, thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to direct them to whoever spoke tonight about any topics that you would like further clarification.